Welcome to Your Need to Know. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and joining me today is Rebecca Kolowe, the Executive Director of Western Fairfax Christian Ministries. Thank you so much for being here, Rebecca.
Thanks for having me back.
So yes, people might recognize you. We did a show earlier in the year, but need never rests here in Fairfax County. And so I'm bringing you back because now that it's September and the kids are back to school and your back to school program has kind of wound down, you guys are working on a lot of other things.
We are. It's interesting in the nonprofit world. During the months of August in particular, while people are away having vacation with their families and at the beach, they're not necessarily thinking about the fact that there are still needs at home. And so August is traditionally our low time of the year. The pantry shelves start getting bare. We do have a backpack program and do some things for back to school, but it's important to remember that there's needs all year long. Even when you're not at home, there are still people in your community who need to be fed, and so that's what we're here for.
And so you did have a food drive. You were on the front page of the Connection newspaper. Some people might have seen your photo and your adorable little boy on the photo of the Connection newspaper. So you raised a lot of food. So clearly you got people's attention.
We did.
For this ongoing need.
We did. That's an event actually called Stock Our Shelves that we started last year, and we do a little play on words with it. We call it the Holy Trinity of food drives because it's one food drive in 3 locations, we brought in just a little bit over 5,000 pounds of food, which kept our shelf stocked for much of the month. Starting to look a little bare now, but it definitely helped, and it's something that we a lot of times organizations will do events for us. But this is an event that we actually run as WFCM to bring in food to help during the summer months.
So Scouting for Food is one of those events, and that will be in November, I believe.
It's the second Saturday in November. It's a nationwide event, so it's all over the country in communities. But the nice thing about it is that the food that's given in the community stays in the community. So we are the beneficiary for the Scouting for Food event in the Western Fairfax region.
And and again, because people tend to be very generous at Thanksgiving and Christmas and back to school, people are used to like, oh, it's back to school, but food needs are 12 months of the year. And so to keep people focused on it, motivated about it, and continuing to get them to give, this is your challenge, isn't it?
It is our challenge. In the summer, we try to head that off by working with Vacation Bible schools, working with swim teams. We've got a lot of relationships in the local schools, so if they have an after-school program or something, a lot of times they'll run a drive for us. But it is a challenge, especially in the summer.
And the fact that is, so explain a little bit about, let's not assume that everybody tuned into our last show, but explain a little bit about how your food pantry works and who you serve.
Okay, well let me actually go back a little bit further and kind of start at the beginning. So Western Fairfax Christian Ministries, WFCM, we were founded 31 years ago, and we do serve the Western Fairfax part of the county. And the reason we're called Christian Ministries is simply because we were founded by churches. The original need was kind of discerned by our 12 founding churches. That being said, we've got over 40 communities of faith that are now partnering with us, and we serve everybody, regardless of faith tradition, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of immigration status. If you are hungry and you have need in our community, we will serve you. So that's kind of who we are. And then what was the rest of your question?
Well, so how do people access your pantry? Because a lot of, like I said, on the board of Bright Paths.
Sure.
And so how we do emergency food assistance or how we distribute food is that we distribute food.
Right.
But your setup is very different from a lot of other food programs.
So we operate in a couple of different ways. We will certainly take referrals from the county. So if people call into the county CSP line asking for assistance and they live in our service area, we will receive a referral from the county for food and or emergency financial assistance. We'll pay a utility shutoff notice up to $300 or a rental eviction notice up to $600 one time per calendar year, if that is what the family needs. In addition to that, people can visit our pantry once every 30 calendar days. So they can come to us through the county. We also take self-referrals. People can walk in off the street if they're hungry and ask for food, and we will serve them. Even if they're not in our service area and they don't meet the income requirements, we will serve anybody once. And then refer them out for other services as needed. The other big way that people come to us is through their communities of faith. So whether it's a church, we work with Adams, the local mosque in Sterling. They have a small community right there off of Brookfield Corporate. And so we serve their community. We serve the local Jewish synagogues as well. So we've got a lot of faith communities that are referring people to us as well.
And so people usually think when we talk about hunger, there's a lot of emphasis on hungry children, you know, in the food insecurity that affects families. But you also have seniors.
We do.
And it's, again, very hard to get people to understand poverty and exactly who it affects in our county.
Yeah, the numbers have changed recently just a little bit because of the fires in Centerville, which I'd like to mention. But about 15% of our clients are people who are seniors who are living on Social Security, on fixed income, and need to shop in the pantry kind of to just make their budget work.
Right. So let's talk about the Centerville fires.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was devastating. 2 fires the same day.
Yeah.
It was almost like inconceivable. And both started by cigarettes, apparently.
Yeah, they
which
were.
is even more egregious than if it had been something like a lightning strike. So it displaced many, many families.
Yeah, and the fire at Forest Glen, which was a low-income senior community, displaced about 88 units. So there were about 125 people who had to leave their home because of the fire. Fortunately, no lives were lost. Thank God it was during the day. I think that made a huge difference. I'd hate to think if it had been at night and people were sleeping, what would have happened. So, I mean, we're very thankful that no lives were lost. The first responders in the community and everybody really pulled together and made a gargantuan effort to help those folks. But we ended up being the agency that kind of coordinated the financial relief effort in particular. We received the donations from the community and then distributed them to the families in need. We helped pay security deposits and first month's rent in new homes. We helped buy furniture. You know, you don't think about the things that you lose.
Right.
And a lot of those folks, because they were lower income and they weren't required, they didn't have renter's insurance.
Didn't have renter's insurance,
they lost
right?
everything.
See, people
medications, glasses.
People think to themselves, well, homeowner's insurance. Not if you're a renter.
Yeah.
And too few renters have renter's insurance.
And they lost things that you don't think about. People
well,
losing.
medicines is expensive.
Medicines, dentures,
Oh, wow.
medical equipment, walkers, people who had dietary needs, who lost supplements and those kinds of things. I mean, just a lot of things you don't think of.
Wow, and so you add all of that up, and per family, that is a big bill.
It is, and we didn't help with all of the need. Again, we have the system in place already, so we really worked with our county partners. Fairfax County, the CSP, Community Services Hotline, helped us quite a bit and did a lot of the case management. St. Vincent de Paul also helped quite a bit financially and with organizing the effort. And also, I should mention Volunteer Fairfax. They're kind of the when a disaster strikes in the community, they are the first line in Fairfax County. So it was a coordinated effort with our partners, but we received cash donations from the community well in excess of $50,000.
And that's individual donations.
It absolutely is, and churches.
Yes, churches, but people step up if they
do.
think, and this is an instance too where when you see that kind of emergency need, you're figuring, well, $25 goes a long way, $50, and like $100 goes a long way. Some kind of disasters, earthquakes or whatever, and you're thinking, well, my contribution is so small considering how great the need is. But in a community disaster like this, all of those individual donations really did make an impact.
They did make an impact, and people gave to us individually, but they also gave to their churches. We had 2 congregations. A Korean Central Presbyterian Church in Centerville wrote us a check for $20,000, and that was money that was collected from their church members. And then also Centerville United Methodist Church wrote us a check for quite a large sum that was taken up in the offering plate. There were other churches as well, but those 2 in particular were large gifts that, it's just amazing what the community can do when they really realize that there's a need and people and a way to help.
And it's interesting too because faith communities are still so very important. And there has been a decline, and there's been a lot within faith communities about how you get younger people in, how you keep younger people, And a part of it though is that a lot of people who are in a faith community want to do good in the community.
Correct.
So when churches offer them a way to give back to the community, not just their faith community, but the larger community, I think that has appeal to a lot, especially a lot of younger people.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what you and I were just discussing before we came on the air. It's so easy for people to commit a small amount, $5, $10. It does make a difference. It really does.
And it's hard for people to see it until they see the cumulative effect. But you know, the other thing is that being appreciated for that too, and being acknowledged for the fact that what you did helped somebody else.
Well, and I mean, I'm proud to say as an organization that, you know, we handled all of those resources. We were able to redistribute them into the community. You know, gosh, I couldn't tell you the numbers off the top of my head, but every family who needed furniture got furniture. Every family that needed a security deposit got a security deposit. You know, I'm just so thankful for the partners in the community and the way that we were able to come together and really meet that need.
And like all nonprofits, you have a small staff.
We do.
A lot of volunteers.
We do.
You know, serving a great need. And so if you kind of imagine in your head what that looks like, you really have to all the time go out and say, this is what we need, this is how you can help. This is what we need, this is how you can help. And make it interesting and find that sort of thing that everybody can do.
Absolutely.
So one of the things we'll talk about, and we'll talk about that a little more in the second segment as well, but you have constantly got things going on. You've got an upcoming dinner.
We do.
But you've also got third-party events, and I just want you to kind of explain how it benefits Western Fairfax Christian Ministries when an organization, a club, or a business does something that they host, they coordinate, and they promote that benefits you.
Sure, absolutely. The Fairfax Adult Softball is a good example. Our board chair is on their board, and he loves to play softball, and they're actually going to be hosting a tournament for us at the end of October. That's something that actually is very little work for us, and is going to bring interest in the community and possibly some dollars for us. That's one good example.
So it's a community event and a fundraiser.
It's a community event and a fundraiser, and it gets our name out there, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, people who
Softball,
love, right? Another good example, I mentioned the swim teams earlier in the summer. A lot of times the kids they're not in school, but they're still training. And so they'll do food drives for us. Let me
You've got a shred event coming up?
We do have a shred. Yeah, we had one last spring that was sponsored by Thrive and we've got one coming up that's being put on by Freedom Bank, I believe. And so, yeah, it's a way to get our name out there. It's a way for the community to kind of participate in a way that's kind of non-traditional. It's something that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but it does have a benefit for us, and it's helpful.
Absolutely. And, you know, I often talk about on the show that I am a member of the Centerville Chantilly Rotary Club.
Yes.
And the Centerville Chantilly, we are. And one of our charter members was also the Charles Keener.
Yep.
His family was honored last year. They've been very instrumental in the history of Western Fairfax Christian Ministries.
Yeah, his father's insurance company actually provided our first home for us in the basement of his building once upon a time. So Charles is kind of, and the Rotary, I mean, we've been together for a long time.
I know, for a long time. And so our Rotary Club is very proud to be one of the partners with Western Fairfax Christian Ministries. And I know that you're constantly looking for other people to do that. And so when we come back from the break, we will talk further about the possibilities.
I dare you. I dare you to change the world. Yeah, you. Getting that college education.
I dare you to be somebody important.
Like be a teacher. Or a reality TV star.
I dare you to stand up here.
To call the shots.
To be a role model.
An inspiration. An innovator.
To be a teacher.
Think you can change my life?
Make me excited about science like you.
Have a career that really means something?
Then do it.
I dare you.
Where's Tommy?
I thought he was with you.
No.
Jack.
Tommy?
Go get him.
Don't stop. Keep playing. Here we go. Here's the fun part.
Did you do this?
Great job.
Encouragement. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Welcome back to Your Need to Know. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and today we are talking with Rebecca Kolowe, who is the Executive Director of Western Fairfax Christian Ministries. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks.
So we were talking about the events and the many ways in which nonprofits have to work all year round. You have to fund the programs like your emergency assistance. You have to do food drives to fill the shelves of your pantry. And so we talked about third-party events, but you do some major events, and one of them is coming up in October. It's your annual dinner.
That's correct. So October the 12th, that's a Friday night. This will be our 11th year. It is our biggest fundraiser of the year. It's a gala. It's hosted at the Westfields Marriott, and we have a silent auction, and we have a nice dinner and speakers, and we raise a lot of money.
So you've got some partners, some kind of big name. You've got a Redskins player coming?
We do. We're very excited this year, yes. Ken Harvey, who is a former linebacker for the Washington Redskins. You may have heard of him. He is our keynote, and we've also got Tracy Potts from NBC News Channel, who's going to be our Mistress of Ceremonies.
Absolutely, which goes to show that there are people in the community who are willing to go out there and use, trade on their name and their credibility and their celebrity to help you out.
Well, and Ken is actually a member of one of our partner churches. So that actually makes it...
It all ties in together.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
And you've got some fun things too. So, galas, and I have to say, when I work with a lot of nonprofits, so I could go to galas pretty much every week
Everybody
of
does
the
them.
year,
Yep.
right? So so to get the gala invitation, people have to make decisions about which ones they go to. But in this case, you've got some fun things coming up too. Like there's this wine pull.
Oh, so at the dinner, yes.
At the dinner.
So this is new for us this year. We've got a couple of things going on. We've got a wine pull, so people can actually pay some money to pull a cork out of a jar and be surprised by which bottle of wine they have won.
I love this idea.
Yes, this was, and we're going to do a jewelry pull too. So Kendra Scott in Mosaic has generously donated some jewelry pieces for us that we're going to be giving away, and it's the same kind of thing. They purchase a ticket and then they get to win a drawing. So.
It's interesting. And speaking of Kendra Scott, so you also have partners. Every nonprofit has board members, and there are also partnerships that you have.
Sure.
So Kendra Scott is one of your partners.
Yeah, we've actually been doing a lot of work this year. We hired a director for development last fall, and one of the things that she's been really pounding the pavement on is developing our business relationships. So we've got a whole bunch of corporate sponsors this year that we did not have at this time last year. Places like Kendra Scott, but also Ono Brewery, which is right across the street from us. They're a local business, and they donated a couple $1,000s worth of tips to us one month last year.
Wow.
So, businesses and community members can partner in a variety of ways, and we can get creative about that, but it allows us to grow those partnerships and grow our name in the community and help people know that, we're there.
So when we talk about Western Fairfax Christian Ministries and serving Western Fairfax County, perhaps we should be more specific, because I'm also making the assumption that everybody in the county who's viewing this understands where we're talking about.
Sure. So we serve the Centerville and the Chantilly zip codes. I could rattle them off to you, but it probably wouldn't mean anything. But basically Centerville and Chantilly, and then Clifton and Fairfax Station, and a little tiny part of Fairfax, like near Fair Oaks.
Right, so that's 50 runs through that.
Absolutely.
29 runs through that. And again, Centerville is a very international community.
It is.
So again, because my Rotary Club also works in the same area that you work in, and we have affiliations with things like the Centerville Immigration Forum.
Yep, so do we. We work with them too.
The
Yes.
Labor Resource Center.
Absolutely.
There's an international showcase every year that we participate in. And the thing with the International Showcase, and especially with communities of faith, this is where you really see like the Korean members of the community, and they have a very strong faith community, the Koreans do, and they're very generous.
Absolutely.
They partner so much with other organizations.
And in Centerville, there's a huge Hispanic and Latino community as well. So, even London Town Elementary School is like Spanish language immersion.
Right.
I mean, they're speaking Spanish all the time because there were so many people from the community there. So,
but one of the things that I point out about when we talk about Fairfax County, it's a huge community of over 1 million people.
So diverse.
And each part of the community, which is huge, is so different. And Centerville tends to be a place where people think of more affordable housing, but it's because it's a transportation desert.
it is. It is, and it's interesting because Fairfax County has actually studied this, and they know that. And there are bus routes and transportation solutions in a written plan. The problem is there's not enough funding to fund all of those routes, and so usually what happens is they end up having to choose which ones to fund over others. But one of the biggest challenges that we have in our area is that our office is actually located in Chantilly, but we serve Centerville, so it's 3 miles, literally 3 miles up Route 28 to Chantilly. And if you don't have your own car, there is actually no way to get there without taking the bus into the Vienna station and then changing buses and then coming out. So what could be a 5-minute drive if there's no traffic turns into a couple of hours. It takes a whole day for somebody like that then to come and visit our pantry.
You know, and this is where when we talk about nonprofits and working with local government organizations and sort of the big picture, what you just described is just so powerful. You've got resources, you've got people who need resources, and no way for the two to come together. So what are some of the creative ways that people manage to get to you?
So there are some solutions in the community. The Shepherd Center serves older folks in the community, and a lot of times, older folks will come to the pantry with a ride from the Shepherd Center. Also, for people who are handicapped or disabled, Metro Access is a good option. Other than that, we've done a variety of things. We've been known to pay an Uber ride every now and then. We try not to do it all the time.
Right.
We have people whose neighbors bring them. We have people who someone from their church brings them. That's actually a really good role that the faith communities could play. If there was a way for them to help organize
rides
some
for people.
transportation for people, that would be a big way for faith communities to help. That doesn't cost anything except
People's
a
time.
volunteer's time.
Yeah, and so this is the thing I really want to get to the heart of, is that there's so many ways that people can support your work.
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily writing you a check or, donating food to the pantry. Looking at how you're getting the people who need food to the food, rides through, to me, there are so many ways if people thought to themselves, what could I do to help facilitate?
Well, and I will tell you that one of the ongoing challenges that we have, which I think a lot of nonprofits have, is how best to organize our volunteers so that they're really plugged in and are able to participate in a way that's meaningful for them. Earlier this year, our volunteer coordinator actually retired, and so
that's hard. That's always hard.
It is very hard, and so that is something. We're kind of filling a gap right now where we're looking for someone who might be willing to volunteer to do that for us for about 10 hours a week, and hope to hire in the long run. But people always want to volunteer. And one of the things that we've learned about donors too is that one of the best ways to retain donors and to convert donors and to bring in new money is to get them involved first as volunteers.
Yeah,
so it's
I
really
agree.
good for the life of the organization to always kind of be cultivating new volunteers in the community. And we've got so many faithful volunteers who work the same shift week after week after week. We could not do that without them. But then it also sometimes becomes challenging to be creative and think about new ways that people could volunteer when you don't necessarily have those openings, so to speak.
And that's something too, thinking about how businesses whose employees want to volunteer, and oftentimes they want to volunteer as a group.
Yes.
So figuring out ways in which you can make a proposal to the employees at Freedom Bank, who's
Right.
they're doing a shred event for you.
Right.
But if the employees want to volunteer, then it's up to you to figure out, well, how do you want to volunteer? When do you want to volunteer? What do you have in mind?
So, and we've actually been doing that. So Northwest Federal Credit Union has a group that comes, I think it's twice a month on Thursday afternoons, just for a couple of hours. They've got their corporate social responsibility there. People want to give back, and so they actually take time out of the work day to come and volunteer for a couple of hours in our pantry. That's just one solution. There's usually about 6 of them, and they kind of rotate through. But yeah, we're trying to do more of that because we realize, especially as our corporate relationships grow, that that businesses want to get involved in that way.
Right. And to me, oftentimes it is a matter of one person who becomes interested in your organization, taking their advocacy to their church, their club, or to their place of business.
Yes, well, and the person who organizes the Northwest Federal Credit Union group is a member at one of our partner churches, and she kind of does this on behalf of the credit union as their employee. So it's a nice match.
It is a nice match.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's a company that is the lead on bringing an opportunity to their employees, but more often it's an employee bringing the
Absolutely.
opportunity to their company.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and again, in clubs too. I'm a Rotarian. People are in Kiwanis and JCs and garden clubs and women's clubs.
Sure.
And, you know, either working individually or being the beneficiary of activities of those organizations is something that would really help to support your work.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting. You talk about the Rotary. So you guys collected change for us
Right.
in jars
Yeah,
for our
yeah.
bread and water campaign. And I was actually speaking with a Rotarian this morning, and she basically said that the reason that happened was because one of the members knows our staff person, Jenny Bush, and asked for the jars and brought them in,
Yeah.
and kind of said, "Here, you guys need to do this. This is one of the organizations in the community that we support."
Yeah. And it's great, and that's what Rotarians do. You know, it's all about service above self. We're a service organization. We raise money, we give it away. But we have partnerships with specific organizations, and Western Fairfax Christian Ministries is one of them.
Yes.
And so we're going to also be one of the sponsors at your event in October.
you are.
And it's in the list of the sponsors you already have. It's actually on your website. So people, if they want information, can go to your website.
They can go to our website. So our website is www.wfcmva.org. I'm sure you will see it on the bottom of your screen.
Absolutely.
You can go there and learn more about us. They're right at the top of the page. If you're interested in hearing Ken Harvey at our dinner, there's actually a link where you can go to purchase tickets for our dinner and learn more about us, learn about the different ways you can donate and get involved.
Yeah, and there is, like we've said throughout, there is a lot of need. It never goes away. It's 12 months out of the year.
true.
And while I know once October passes, your dinner's over, we get to Thanksgiving and
Yeah.
Christmas. And everyone appreciates the generosity at Thanksgiving and Christmas.
absolutely.
Absolutely. But we've got to figure out ways for people to be engaged all year long.
Yeah, I mean, all nonprofits struggle with this. You know, the end of the year, you're usually pretty flush. I mean, with cash, with canned goods, with whatever it is that you need, with frozen turkeys.
Right.
I mean, we have the problem every year that we don't have enough freezer space for all of those turkeys that have to go out for our holiday food program. So, you know, and those are all really important things that I would never want to say.
No,
we
no,
don't-
please bring
please
it,
don't
bring
do
it,
that.
bring it,
Right. I
bring
mean,
it,
we
bring it.
definitely want those things. But yes, it is an all-year endeavor, and so especially as the summer months wane, it's important that people remember that we're there.
Well, I so appreciate you coming and telling and updating us on what you're doing and talking about the Centerville fires too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how you responded so effectively to that community crisis.
Sure.
And I hope a lot of people, as I'm sure you do too, will come out to your gala
We'd love to see you.
in October.
We'd love to see new people. I mean, that's always fun.
Absolutely. So this is what you need to know about Fairfax Christian Ministries and their work in Western Fairfax County.